this is it's not a decision-making kind of a meeting. That's not what this is. This is a meeting for people to be informed and to have their concerns addressed and so forth. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to PNM folks. And if you, please introduce yourself as you begin to speak, then that'll help people know who you are and how you fit into the whole thing. So.
Can everybody see the screen that I'm sharing? Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. So part 2 of our San Marcos meeting, so to follow up on all the items from last time, I'm going to give you just some information about who's joining us today and the agenda. So our agenda for tonight is a continuation discussion on outages. The unplanned status update of those unplanned outages will be our first topic. We're going to talk about the construction schedule and also the request for the Balloon Fiesta pause in construction. Give everybody kind of a progress update on where we're standing and what our next plan is. And of course, a safety discussion about traffic control on Gold Mine Road. It's an update on the vegetation management, in particular NMDOT for that North 14 highway. And then just a reiteration of community outreach so people know how to reach us if they have questions following the meeting. Joining us tonight from PNM, just like last time, is Carlos Lucero from the Senior Manager for Community Relations and Government Affairs. And then Sergio Mata, your representative for Northern New Mexico, is joining us again tonight. From PNM's Distribution Engineering, we have Dennis Hernandez from Northern New Mexico. So we really appreciate having him here tonight. He works on that system that you all are on. So he's a great resource to talk to tonight. And then, of course, Shelby McGee from PNM Environmental. Tonight with Burns and McDonald, of course, myself, Susie Solian. And then tonight is also joining us Joe Grantham. He is the lead project manager. And then Taylor Allen, the assistant project manager. JC Chavez, who you met last time, the project manager for this, is unfortunately out of the country and could not join us, but we're really excited to have Joe and Taylor with us. Taylor has been with this project since it started with us 4 or 5 years ago. So he's a great resource. And with that, we're going to go right into discussion about the unplanned outage, and I'm going to turn that over to Dennis Hernandez.
So just real quick, can everybody hear me? All right, great. My name is Dennis Hernandez. I'm one of the system reliability engineers here in Santa Fe. I've been working for PNM for 20 years and pretty familiar with the system that feeds up Highway 14 all the way into Madrid, down Gold Mine Road. Wanted to touch base on a couple of things. First and foremost, good news and bad news. The good news was we did not have any feeder-based outages for about a month, which was our last meeting, but we did have an outage yesterday. And I wanted to apologize for that. I did want to make a couple of notes. Since our last outage, PNM had promised to do some vegetation management, and we've done that. We've taken care of some trees near Highway 14 and Gold Mine Road. And we also identified a structure that had some damaged equipment on it that was also replaced along Gold Mine Road. The outage, however, that you guys experienced yesterday was more than likely due to some damaged lightning arresters that are along the run of Gold Mine Road out to the actual mine. And yes, we got a hands up, and we were able to get out into the field and isolate that piece of faulty equipment and get the feeder turned back on. I wanted to explain to you guys something real quick, and I don't know if it was explained in the last meeting, but we have a device on our line, and it's called a recloser for anybody taking notes. And we set that device to a certain protection mode when we have linemen that are working on the line. And we set it to a thing called one shot. And what its intent is is to protect the lives of the men that are working on the line. Our system is kind of designed in a way that when we have something bump our line, whether it's a tree branch or wind, we have devices that will turn off and then turn right back on, and then turn off and turn right back on, and turn off and turn right back on to make sure everybody, like the outage is cleared and everyone gets their lights on. But when we have men working on the line, if they make contact, we don't want our system to turn back on. Because if they're lucky enough to survive one electrical contact, probability is they won't survive a second or a third. So the device that we have in the field is set to purposely trip in case there's a contact or something that would endanger their lives. So I just wanted to be clear and transparent with you with that. But the outage that was caused yesterday, we were out in the field in the afternoon yesterday and again today to address the equipment that we believe caused the fault. And we're ready to continue to move on with construction. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Dennis. We may have some questions at the end if you can hang out for a little bit.
Right, yeah, we'll be doing questions through the chat, Dennis, not verbally.
Okay.
So we'll move on to construction schedule update. There was a request at the last meeting, especially from the town of Madrid, if PNM could pause its construction on this line during the balloon fiesta. So after discussion with our contractors and some planning, it has been determined that yes, we will be able to take that pause for construction. And I want to walk everybody through what that's going to look like. What it means is we will not be doing the active work of pole replacement on this line. What they're going to do, and you might see traffic or trucks in the area with poles. So if people live on Gold Mine, they've probably noticed maybe along North 14 that we've been, staging poles and kind of setting them in the right of way. We're going to do a very similar process. We're going to be transporting poles up to LAC Minerals, which is the end of this line at the very tail end of Gold Mine Road. There's about 100 poles that need replacement or additions there. So quite a bit of work to get prepared for that. What our crews are going to be doing is transporting those poles up there and putting the cross arms and staging them and getting them ready, because the plan is as we move out of the balloon fiesta pause, we'll be moving into construction on the gold mine, and we're racing against weather. So what we're trying to do is get as much pre-work done so that we don't have to completely demobilize and be able to get in and do that work before we lose our opportunity of the season. So you are going to still see trucks in the area. You're going to see them transporting materials. You're going to see those linemen, but they are not going to be working on the line. They're only doing pre-work to get ready for that next phase. So I hope that makes it a little bit more clear of why you may see us. And this is all in a process to eliminate any unplanned outages possible during that very critical time to Madrid. I'm not sure how many businesses or attendees we have from the Madrid area. We don't have a lot on tonight. I will be able to canvass there in the village like I did a couple of weeks ago and reach out to all of those business individuals to give them that good news. That's something that they eagerly wanted. And we've been able to accommodate that request. Taylor, Joe, do you guys have any updates on the construction progress that you want to share?
No updates from my side.
Okay. So if people haven't noticed, we've moved off of North 14. Titan is now working exclusively on Gold Mine Road. So we're out of the DOT area as we discussed, and that will remain our plan until the weather closes for the year and we're able to go back to North 14 to continue work. And I believe that's all the construction updates we have. So progress is still moving. We are still on track to complete this project as scheduled. I want to take you guys through safety. If you live on Gold Mine Road, I know traffic control is a big concern that everyone has. And so you probably have seen traffic control develop in this last couple of weeks as we've been more active into the roadway. So we want to let you know that you're going to have, just like you've seen before, especially in those very tight corners and turns, advanced warning signs, cones and barrels marking off these work areas, flaggers if those lanes are closed, and those are about 100-foot spans, and then extra signs on the curves and reduced visibility. So you should see all of that actively in your area. This is kind of a map of what that looks like. So you can kind of get a better visual of what to expect coming up to both sides of that. So as you're exiting and entering Golden Mine Road from your homes, this is the expectation that you all should see. I'll take you through one more. This just takes you kind of through that shoulder work and emergency protocols, which I know has been a very big concern for the area. You know, what do we do if there's an emergency? What does traffic control mean? Will crews still be able to get to us, emergency personnel? And yes, the flaggers are trained and certified in flagging, defensive driving, first aid, CPR, and OSHA. And state and province safety standards. We maintain clear communication in these areas to make it a smooth traffic flow for you, and emergency protocols are followed. So the flaggers are trained for the stopping and the clearing of those areas for immediate emergency response by vehicles. These are tapered and channeled, designed to allow for that emergency personnel to pass through safely without causing a delay in reaching to your home. And then we maintain communication between traffic control staff and local emergency services. And all of those work zones are maintained with a clear access route for first responders. So what that means is we're going to clear off that roadway. We're going to exit so that we do not cause any delays, but we're not going to try and do that at the same time as emergency personnel are coming through. So you can be assured that there is an emergency. This will be handled appropriately and there will not be delays due to our construction. I know that was a big concern for the area. If at any point this does not look right to you, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to put up the public engagement hotline as well so that you can contact me. I've been working with a neighbor on your road, Marianne Hatton, who I believe is also a board member, and she's been keeping me up to date on the traffic control as well in between my visits to make sure that that maintains a safe passage for everyone going through the area. So this is the way to contact us at customer outreach. We can absolutely interface with this project team at any point for any questions that you may have. And our turnaround time is about 24 to 48 business hours, usually about 24 business hours. The only thing that really prevents us from calling you back same day is we do field work. So you will probably see us in your area. I'm going to leave this up. I know I've given this information to Dennis, and I'll just leave this up for a little while as we kind of handle questions so that if you want to jot anything down, you have an opportunity. And that's kind of it, I believe, for updates on that. We would be now moving into vegetation management update, which I know is a big concern for the area. So Shelby, have you had any updates on vegetation management for North 14 from NMDOT yet? I think you're muted. No, still can't hear you. We'll give Shelby just 1 second. Some of you may have noticed while Shelby gets her microphone working, hopefully again, I'll let you know that vegetation management is going to be starting soon on Gold Mine Road. And so you may have already seen those markings start. The consulting arborist will be visiting customers along that route who have trees that have been identified for cutting or trimming. So there will be an opportunity to interface with PNM Vegetation Management about those areas and that cutting work. You can also reach out to me as well in public engagement, and we can schedule a time with that consulting arborist if needed. We'll try and see if Shelby can join as audio yet. She was talking earlier, I swear. Shelby, I'm pretty sure, and you can just kind of maybe indicate with a thumbs up or not, that there has been no movement with NMDOT for the permit there on North 14 for trimming. So we're still on a hold with them, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, it switched audio inputs. But,
So
yeah,
as Shelby said, there's been no movement. We have complied with all of their information requests. We are following up regularly, and we have not received a decision from them since our last information request submittal that was at our last meeting. So we are anxiously awaiting to hear from NMDOT some sort of guidance or approval so we can share that with the community. And I do anticipate that once we do receive that information, we'll be able to share with the community again a little bit more what that trimming is going to look like. And I believe that kind of takes us to the end of our presentation. I know, Dennis, the community really wanted to talk about unplanned or planned outages. Would you guys like me to run through the process of a planned outage again?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I know there was a bit of confusion between planned outages and unplanned outages last we spoke. The unplanned outage that you experienced yesterday is, like Dennis said, not something we can really easily predict. That's an equipment failure. However, for construction, these are planned. What that means is as we are working and going down these lines and we're swapping out transformers and replacing them with new ones, if you're connected to a transformer that needs to be swung over to be new service, like a energization, right? Taking the old line onto the new equipment, you're going to receive 72 hours notice via door hanger or a robocall. It's going to depend on how many people are on that outage. So you're going to get advance notice of that outage. Typical time is 4 to 6 hours. They're going to tell you the time, they're going to tell you the date, and they're going to tell you the duration of the outage so you're able to better plan. So I would anticipate there on Goldmine that process will take off here as we bring on more poles. It's a little harder because we're having to hopscotch around while we wait for vegetation management to come out and start cutting some of those, but that's what you can expect for a planned outage when we start to energize this new equipment. The unplanned, like we've said, we'll do our very best to let you know that there's an outage that's occurring and when you're going to be back online. But we know that in some areas, you don't have power, you don't have cell service, or unless you have a landline, and that poses a challenge. So we're still doing what we can to minimize those unplanned outages, but rest assured, for the planned outages, you will get notice, and we will absolutely try and work with you. If there's an extenuating circumstance, we just ask that you give us a call and we can talk about that. But for the most part, these should be relatively short and easy to endure. So I hope that better answers that and makes it clear again what the goal is there by the contractor and PNM. And I believe that's pretty much it of our discussion topics for tonight, Dennis. So if you guys are comfortable moving into questions and answers, we can do so.
Yeah, we will take that in just a second. Do you have any idea how many planned outages there will be? I mean, how many transformers are there on Gold Mine Road?
I don't have a count on transformers. I don't know if Taylor or Joe might be able to help with that question.
I don't have that information in front of me, but we can certainly look it up if you all would like.
Okay, because I'm assuming these will just kind of march down the road. So if my neighbor quarter of a mile away had a power outage today, I can expect one perhaps, next week or something like that. I mean, that's would help people to understand the bigger picture, how it's going to flow.
I know because they're having to kind of move around and address poles that are not have vegetation interference. it'll probably be a little different of a process. I don't know if they'll move very systematically down. I'm assuming they probably will, as they kind of fill in those spots. But I can speak to Titan, and as Taylor said, we can get an idea of how many transformers are on the line, and we can kind of understand better what those outages are going to look like for you.
Okay, thank you. Maggie, I'm going to turn it over to you. We can, Susie, if we can pull that down from your screen. Maybe just put that map up we talked about, but no, at this point, so we can see people's faces a little better. But Maggie, go ahead and start with the questions.
Will do. Thanks, Dennis. And I'm Maggie McCauley. I serve on the board of the San Marcos Association. So our first question is from Raquel. I live on 14 near the wetlands area, which is very dense with trees and vegetation. Can you describe what fire precautions you have in place for this area? And can you forecast when you'll be working at that location?
So if I understand correctly, Maggie, you said in one of the wetland areas.
Uh-huh. She said,
So
yeah.
the Arroyo areas. So I believe all of that is off of North 14. Correct? Am I correct in that?
I don't know where that is.
I believe it's off of North 14. So I don't know, Shelby, do you have any guidance on that?
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. So we're not sure when we'll be able to work in that area, as an MDOT has not given us the go ahead to do vegetation along Highway 14. That will be one of the later work orders that we get to along the highway. It should be much later in the season if we get to it. As far as wildfire precautions, the crews are equipped with fire suppression for small fires so that they can immediately respond if something breaks out near their work area. And honestly, the best way that we can manage wildfires in this area is by doing vegetation management. Within the San Marcos Arroyo, I believe that's the wetland you're talking about, we will be doing tree trimming. And MDOT has been very clear they don't want any tree removal happening in that area, as it has undergone significant restoration efforts. And there was a big effort to bring back the cottonwoods. So we'll only be trimming in that area, which does make it less fire safe, but we're trying to balance all requests.
Thanks, Shelby. Next question is, well, we know the balloon fiesta is from October 4th to October 12th. And so are those the dates? Is that the span of time where there will be no working on the lines during that span of time from the 4th through the 12th? Or is it through the weekend of the 4th? Or whenever that weekend is? What dates won't you be working in that span of time?
I'm going to refer this to either Carlos Lucero or Taylor Allen.
Well, my understanding is based on the last meeting and that request, and the fact that we were able to, in a sense, be able to accommodate that request. That would be during the whole balloon fiesta.
So the 4th through the 12th.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you very, very much for that. Raquel asked, does the Turquoise Trail Volunteer Fire Department have a protocol to follow if a fire should break out?
I can't speak. I don't know if any of us would be able to speak to the protocols in place for the Turquoise Trail if a wildfire did break out, but we probably would be able to have PNM speak about what they do in the event of a wildfire for that area. I don't know, Carlos or Dennis, if there's a protocol we can share tonight about what PNM does if a wildfire should break out on that overhead line area.
I mean, I'll start and Dennis could probably fill in, but I mean, from a wildfire standpoint, we're in very good partnerships with, Santa Fe County, the first responders, the fire chief. In fact, we did have a wildfire town hall just a couple of weeks ago there in Santa Fe in downtown rail yard area. So, we're in coordination at all times with our partners with the county, with the communities, to that if a fire does start, depending if it's the power line or whatever the case is, we're going to be in coordination to make sure that fire gets out as fast as possible. And at the same time, I'll just kind of state this is that, that's part of the, this whole, like Dennis explained too, with the one shot, is that because it's under construction, because, there's a lot of moving parts, that whole one shot in the recloser that he explained is that helps prevent, in case like there's a wind or any kind of disturbance, that, a tree falls into the line, that, this is where that one shot comes into play, where if there's a disturbance, it de-energizes that line. So that's part of how we try to prevent a fire from happening in the first place. So that's part of the part of the wildfire mitigation. But you can add to Dennis if you want to. Dennis Hernandez.
Thank you, Carlos. Carlos touched base real good there. I do want to let you guys know that wildfires has been one of PNM's most recent focuses, right? We actually have a system in place called a PSPS, which is a process that PNM uses when we determine that the environment poses a high opportunity for us to experience a fire. And the good and the bad news is with this is that the good news is we got a plan. The bad news is sometimes that includes just shutting the power off, right? We have a plan that is put in place to help protect the residents, help protect the environment. One of the things that you'll see as you drive down this new line is that we're also building the line today with all these new fire precautions in place. So you'll see some of these poles now that have pole wraps at the base where the older poles don't have that, right? We're implementing new protection devices in our cutouts that where our old cutouts would explode and you would see an arc. Now we have fire suppression kind of fuses that we're installing. So we're taking a whole new approach to reducing the exposure to fire. And we're also putting strategic plans in place to prevent fires caused by our system, and or if there's a fire started somewhere else where we can shut our system off so that if a pole gets burnt or something happens and our lines fall down, we don't help to continue igniting fires.
Yeah. Maggie, I can't officially comment on behalf of the county fire department, but I do note that there is a permanent 3 persons stationed on La Cienega Station 1, and they would be about 8 or 9 minutes in terms of total response time from when the call comes in to when they would get to, for instance, San Marcos Arroyo. And about the same amount of time for the volunteers at the Turquoise Trail fire station. And since since I did the training as a wildfire specialist, I can tell you that all of the county fire staff are well equipped and trained for dealing with all kinds of wildfires, including if it were an electrical fire, we would wait for PNM. But aside from that, we would be able to control. So that's not an official statement since I'm no longer a member, but I do want to give you the basis or the background for I have no worries whatsoever about the ability of County Fire to respond to a wildfire in our entire district. Since I was present on at least 4 wildfires in my 10 years.
Thank you, Laird. Maggie? Maggie, next question. Are you there? Your screen looks frozen.
It could be that Maggie has had some weather-related issues with her internet, and she asked if I would fill in for her. So let me
Okay,
just turn this
go ahead,
on.
Doug.
All right, and so the next question that I see was, I'm sorry, I didn't realize she was gone, so I'm just catching up real quick. What is the pause date for the year, not the balloon fiesta, but for the calendar year? If you have to stop and restart next year, what would those dates be?
I don't have particular dates. Typically in the past, it's all been very weather related. So the crew is going to try and work through the weather. If the ground is frozen, they won't be working if there's inclement weather. And then they do take a break for the holidays. So work tends to slow down between Thanksgiving and Christmas, depending on the weather. And then in January, of course, that's the coldest month. So most likely what you're going to see is once NMDOT approval has been obtained, they'll try and start working in areas of North 14 as they can. So I would expect the breaks for the holidays and for inclement weather days and particularly cold days. This was an 18-month long project. So the goal is to complete all of this work, I believe, by March.
I'm back, Doug.
Yes.
Thank you. Did you ask Courtney's question?
No.
Okay. Courtney asks, she says she would like to hear again about the vegetation management that's planned and where does it involve herbicides and perhaps a repeat of the tree trimming or removal. It seems this changed once the work was moved over to NMDOT.
So
I think they're 2 separate things.
Yeah.
DOT's work is not connected to this. It's connected to their controlling vegetation from the standpoint of their regulations regarding the ability to see around curves and other lines of sight issues. It just so happens it's in this same area, but it's not connected at all to what PNM is doing. I spoke with the engineer in charge of this whole area, and what he informed me is that the herbicides will only be used right on the trunk of a tree that has to be cut down. They're not going to cut down any trees they don't have to, and only if that tree is a Siberian elm. So any other kinds of trees will not get herbicides. There's not herbicides for grasses or shrubs or any of those kind of things. It's just a stump killer on the here and there Siberian elm that they have to cut down. And they won't cut down any Siberian elms if they don't need to. So at this point, they didn't give me a timeline on when that would begin or end or any of that, but they're doing everything they can to minimize drift or any of those kind of things. There shouldn't be. The herbicide is dispensed through an applicator that's just held a couple of inches above the cut trunk. And so it's not sprayed out into the wind or anything like that. So that's the NMDOT stuff. I don't know if there's anything else to add regarding PNM at this point. Is PNM going to be using herbicides, Susan?
Oh, I can answer that. We
Oh,
will, but
Shelby, I'm sorry.
oh, no worries. We will, but it will be in the very similar manner to how NMDOT applies herbicide. It'll only be on the Siberian elms, well, and the Russian olives, as those are also invasive. And it will be applied directly to the stump. It won't be sprayed. It'll be like kind of dripped onto the stump.
Thank you.
And
Raquel, go ahead.
I will note that there's a growing movement to actually learn to live with these trees, even though they're invasive, kind of like the way we live with dandelions that are also invasive, but we don't try to get rid of every dandelion in the world anymore. So that might be something to think about. If there's anyone here this evening that's involved in that, please put something in the chat. But I've been hearing from a number of people that just because they're invasive doesn't mean that they need to be eradicated, that they're actually doing good things according to some research.
yeah, there are pros and cons to the Siberian elm. There's a reason they were planted. They grow fast, provide great shade, can stabilize, loose soils very well. Unfortunately, it is NMDOT's requirement that we use this herbicide. So at least along NMDOT, we don't have a say. Like in NMDOT's right away, we have to use it on the Siberian elms.
Interesting. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
So Raquel,
Maggie.
okay, Raquel clarified her location. It's Old San Marcos Trail, just south of the old fire station. There is that where you had imagined it was? Susie, is that where you were thinking it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I was thinking of. And yes,
Okay.
in that area, we will just be trimming.
Okay. She also asked, is there an arborist so that it would be judiciously trimmed?
Yeah, and arborists are going to be doing all the veg management on this project. So they'll be doing the trimming. They'll also be doing the tree removal and the herbicide application.
Do you know what class of herbicide is being used?
I used to know it, and I would want to double check with our vegetation management team before I don't know, reach back into my memory and probably pull out something wrong.
Well, if you can please let us know, and then we'll be able to share that with people. You can email, just give it to Susie and she can email it, whatever.
Sounds good.
I'm not sure of this question from Raquel. There is now relatively SIG water, SIG water sources at the wetland site. Can you access the water source until La Cienega can arrive? Does that question ring a bell for anybody?
I think SIG is significant, and
Okay.
I don't think that there would be any need for pulling water out of the arroyo because of the availability of water at the station soon. Station 1 across from the San Marcos feed store and cafe. And then there's also water available in Cerrillos. So it would be under unusual circumstances why the county fire would have to pull water out of that arroyo.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Laird. Thanks so much. And I believe that is the final question we have here tonight. Thank you, Raquel. Yes, significant. Thank you.
I would point out Jessica had a lengthy statement that asked, and I don't know, Jessica, if you were here at the beginning when Dennis explained the what they're doing to deal with the problem, but it has to do with equipment. And it just seems to me that when you get into a big job like this, you find places where old equipment that you hadn't thought about that was sort of working and kind of chugging along, it really isn't so good, and it needs to be replaced. But you just, until something happened, you didn't even know that. That's part of it. But am I understanding that correctly, Dennis? You're muted, Dennis.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, we're talking about 21 miles of overhead line, right, and equipment that we're looking to maintain and make better. And that doesn't include all the single phase laterals and everything that's out there. So yeah, I mean, once we get into our protection mode to protect lives for the men that are on the line, it kind of shrinks in all of our protection, and it makes us very vulnerable to little blips. And when we find equipment that needs to be replaced, we get on it.
And Jessica, I'm sorry, I did not see your question. It's possible you sent that to the San Marcos Association chat in the chat rather than on the main chat here. I don't see your question, so I'm sorry I did not ask it.
It's okay. It's from Jessica Weber, and it's a fairly long paragraph with a question at the very end.
Okay. And I had a question from last time. There was a lot of discussion in the first meeting about overhead lines versus underground lines. And there was kind of a push for underground lines. And my question was, I understand that underground lines cost considerably more than overhead lines. But I asked if any studies had been done, since there would be fewer problems with underground lines, even though it's more expensive to fix a problem and more challenging to fix a problem and locate a problem with underground lines. Have there been any studies that show that underground lines don't have problems as frequently as overhead lines that might make it more financially good to have underground lines? You know, if there are fewer problems over the long haul, it might be cost effective. And someone was going to look into that. I don't know if they had a chance to do it.
So we did discuss that at the last meeting, and we did discuss it afterwards as a project team. So one of the issues with there's not a study that's really comparable to where you are. So we don't want to give you a study that's not quite comparable to where you are, because it will be inaccurate. For us to produce a study, there would have to be a financial ability to do that, a feasibility. Right now, because it's an existing overhead line, and there's not that ordinance that compels it to be put underground and have that cost be absorbed by PNM or the state, and it has to be absorbed by the 2,000 customers on that line solely, can't be spread amongst all ratepayers on the system. We would be spending quite a bit of money to produce a study. That's something that's not quite feasible right now with current ordinances.
Yeah.
So it'd be very speculative, and that could be very misleading to you all. We want to give accurate information, and also be realistic about the kind of limitations, what we have right now.
Right. Just two things. How were they not comparable? Like, what made them?
It's a very unique area, which we've all highlighted. It's a historic area. It has bedrock. It's 22 miles through this area. And so I don't believe that they have the studies, at least PNM has not carried out a study that we are aware of, that is more comparable.
Gotcha.
And so we could explore that, but the question is are we putting a lot of money that ratepayers are paying for us to conduct that study of something that we wouldn't feasibly be able to do, and the community wouldn't probably be able to afford, given how many payers are on that large line, and what that cost would be. I think once you have ordinance to support it, then there's a much more feasibility to that. So we want to be realistic. We hear it, we understand that concern, but we want to make sure that we're being realistic with setting that expectation. It'd be quite costly, is my understanding.
Yeah, thank you. And I just had one quick comment, then there are two more questions. Someone was commenting the last time about underground lines and water that, well, I'm from Florida, where if you dig down 6 inches, you're going to hit water. And we had underground power lines. So it's very doable. Well,
Yes.
anyway, yeah,
Uh,
Laird.
One little data point, 3 years ago, when PNM just replaced a little over 1 mile in Rancho Alegre, I understand that the cost overrun was about a factor of three because of the rock. I mean, we are on bedrock for the entire distance, and it even the crew said, we've got lots of other work this summer and you're keeping us here. And anyway, so I think the comment that this is a unique area is quite accurate. I know I'm the only person I know who gardens with a jackhammer.
Thank you, Laird. Thank you, Susie. Roxanne asked, could PNM provide some battery backups for people like Jessica? And Roxanne says she has a Jackery that works great.
I don't believe PNM provides any backup battery for customers. They do have on their website some guidance and assistance how to deal with planned and unplanned outages as a customer, things that you could do. I know when I canvassed through Madrid and certain areas, that was a big discussion point, and some people had kind of gone ahead and looked into other options for generators or small battery packs, depending on what type of equipment they had concerns about losing service for. So I would probably refer you to PNM's website, to that outage information to kind of help you give some tips and tricks and some resources on how to best deal with that in your family.
And if anyone wants to take a look in the chat, Roxanne has posted a link to her generator from Costco, if anyone would like to check that out. And she also brought up the population density, which is much higher in Florida than it is here, better able to absorb the cost of doing something like that. So thanks, Roxanne. So I see no more questions for the moment. Last call. Any questions going once? Okay. When we called in to file a claim, we were told we would have to file individual claims for each outage and would likely be dealing with multiple adjusters. Is that accurate?
That's unfortunately, I don't believe, a question that I would be able to answer. That would be best answered by PNM Insurance or possibly Carlos. Do you have any insight on that? That's not an aspect that I'm familiar with yet.
Yeah, I'm looking at the question again when we called to file a claim. Well, I think with that, because did we give the number last time? I think we
did, and
We did, but it somehow when I copied the chat, the number didn't come through, so I had to get it from you again. So yeah, if you could put it in there now, again, we'd really appreciate that.
yeah, because I guess the way it should happen is like, yeah, for you could call our claims department, let them know, and it could be that that for each outage, there could be a different claim depending on maybe what if it's, say, the refrigerator burnt out or whatever the case. You'd have to figure out, well, what outage might have caused that, and then that's what you would talk to our claim department about. But so I'll put that number back in there. I think I have it here. Give me just about a minute. But
and sometimes in insurance, they do look at things per occurrence. That's
yeah,
kind of something you see in the industry. So that it could be very accurate. That is something I can follow up with George Burton about there with PNM claims. sort of sounds right to me. They would look on these on an individual basis.
Mhm.
But let me confirm that, Alicia, for you. And Alicia, if you'd like to, you can always reach out to me via email or on the hotline, and then we can talk one-on-one as I get that answer from Mr. Burton for you, if you'd like.
Maggie,
Okay,
Yes, Larry?
I should plead guilty to my lack of situational awareness. But yesterday I didn't know that power was out. I was working on my laptop, and the first I knew that the power had been out is when I got the next door note that said the power would be restored by 1 p.m. and it was about 1:30 at the time. So uh, modern laptops are certainly uh, capable of dealing with short outages.
Susie, do you see Alicia's comment there?
I do, Alicia.
Okay.
Is your business in Madrid? Is that a business that I can stop by and visit you, or would you like, um, if you want to put in the chat what business you are, we may not have reached you at this last one. I can be up in the area if you'd like on Friday, and we can have, that'll give me an opportunity to reach out to Mr. Burton, seeing if I can get that question answered for you, and we can talk on Friday if that works for you. If not, I can come out next week, or we can talk via email or phone. I'll leave it up to you to decide what information you want to share in the chat, or you can reach out to me directly on the public engagement line, and I'll put that number up for you guys again.
And Alicia, you can send a private chat to Susie up there. Just click on the little plus that says new chat, and it will list everybody who is on this call, and you can send her a private message. Stephen asks, how do you get onto the list for notices of outages?
So for planned outages, it's going to be based on the transformer that services you. Operationally, that information is shared with the contractor. So we have a list of who is on that outage and your address. You'll receive either a door hanger for that or a robocall, depending on how many people are serviced by that transformer. Otherwise, you can sign up for outage notifications, I believe, at pnm.com and the outage center. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to. I know that they did post on X, and they also posted on Facebook the outage yesterday as well. So if you're a user of any of those social media platforms, we've been able to provide that information to customer service and warn them, and they've been able to send out those notices on an alternative method as well. So those are some options.
All right.
I
Thank
want
you.
to thank everyone here. I want to jump in here and share my screen. If I can do this, let me see, how do I do the share the screen? And I guess that's mine. Share that one. And then just let everyone know that the San Marcos Association is having a trivia night. Hopefully you can see that on your screen, October 23rd. I'm just talking here a little bit until we get the phone numbers and things in the chat that people can look at. But it's you can get tickets on our website, the sanmarcosassociation.org, and go down to the bottom of the homepage and click on the link that'll take you to the tickets. But last year the trivia night was a big success. We had to turn people away at the door, and so please get your tickets in advance. Starts at 5 p.m. on the 23rd. And with that, I think
So
I do want to say to everyone, go ahead and Shelby before I wind this up.
I had sent a IM to our veg management lead, and he just got back to me on what the herbicide is.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so
Hey, say it and spell it.
okay. He says we use a basal squirt, so it's a little gallon pump nozzle to a fresh cut on Siberian elms of Garland 4. That's Garlon. But if it's near water, they use Garland 3. They don't do broadcast spray. They apply it within 20 to 30 minutes of the cut. It's only on the cambium layer of the stump.
Right.
Yes, I will copy and paste that into the chat.
Very, very controlled. Okay, great. All right.
Yeah, and this is Carlos. I did post the PNM claims department number in the chat as well.
I'm looking for it here. Oh, yes, okay, 855-942, and we'll make sure to get that. Might be on our website, and we'll get that there on our website as well. And we'll do our best to get everyone who could not make it this evening. But I want to thank everyone for being here. This is not going to be the last of these meetings. There's a lot of work that's going to be happening. I don't know when the next one will be. It'll kind of depend on circumstances, but as we move through the fall, my understanding, Susie, was that you said the construction stuff will be done around the end of March. That's for the main line. That's not for all of these lateral lines, which are going off to the side. That's actually going to take maybe a year or two longer. So different lines. I don't know how much, I'm guessing, but it's an extension of this job. But the big job, the first, is it the 22 miles is from sort of north to south on, that's going to be done around March. And then these other lines, before there was a map showing some of the areas that would be receiving these laterals, and that map is also on the SMA website. So this will be going on for a while. It may not be right in your neighborhood now, but it's important, if it's not there, that it might be coming there, that you understand that this is very thoroughly planned and engineered here. Yeah, you can see that on the screen now. Highway 14 is only one part of it, but then there's out in areas like Silverado and over Camino Los Abuelos and Gold Mine Road and those places. So
And our next and the next phase of this is Madrid. So that juncture of Gold Mine Road and North 14, as it starts to head south towards Madrid, that is part of that second phase. And yes, there is a lateral aspect that you're seeing where we go into these side neighborhoods. That is still in a planning phase. So I don't want anybody to get very committed to that. It's still in design. And so that can change. But yes, those laterals are going to be addressed. But we just don't want to get very specific because that information could change as design comes through. So there'll be more notification. There'll be more community outreach as we start moving into those. We've already assured the Village of Madrid. We're going to have another meeting as we start to kick off into their area. Since it is a condensed area, it is a tourist area, and the same will apply for the laterals. So we're going to keep working with San Marcos to keep you guys well informed of what we're doing. And at any point, you can reach out to us in public engagement, and we can give you an idea of where we sit with that project if you're concerned.
And Jessica has asked you to expect unplanned outages when you move to the lateral lines.
You know, I don't know, and I don't know if Dennis can answer that. It's really, as we're seeing right now, equipment failures for this older equipment. And that's, remember, as we rebuild, like we talked about in the last meeting, those unplanned outages and these incidences decrease, and they should. Whether or not what the condition of the lateral is, and if putting it on one shot, that protected device is going to cause unplanned outages, I couldn't tell you. It's not something I don't know if we would be able to predict. But I think what we're learning right now on Gold Mine and what's going on gets us better prepared and puts more things in place as we move into more of those laterals. We're learning more about the condition of that line as we're doing construction, meaning those problems are coming to the surface that we'll be able to address. Dennis, I don't know if there's anything we can add to that to kind of better address that.
So when we start working on single phase laterals, we're going to be behind a different protection scheme, and we're behind fuses and not necessarily behind reclosers. So when we work on single phase laterals, the protection isolates those laterals from the backbone. Right now, the device that's tripping affects everybody, right? When we become behind a fuse, it only affects those that are behind that fuse, if that makes sense. But long story short, no, it should not affect everybody like it does now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank
Thank you.
again for arranging the work stoppage during the balloon fiesta. That will help the local businesses and they just won't be nervous about power outages and so on and so forth. And we really appreciate your willingness to do that and your willingness to have these meetings. And I want to thank everyone again for being here this evening. But with that, I am going to close this down. Everyone have a wonderful evening and keep your eyes on emails from SMA when the next one of these might come up. So take it easy, everybody. Thanks again for coming.
Good night.
Thank you.